Hey guys, I'm Kelly, and I'm really glad you're joining me today. I'm having a conversation about friendship and specifically about discipleship and friendship with a really good friend of mine, Jessica. And so, Jess, I'm really glad that you're here today joining me. And I know you, and we've known each other for a while, but everybody else doesn't. So I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are and your life.
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. This is like a pleasure to be able to be here and super special. So I am a wife and a mom of two beautiful little kiddos. I am on staff part-time at my church, and I help in our care ministry. So I get to serve and equip people to care for people well, have a number of care classes that I help with. And
and we met, I think it was probably 8 years ago.
Yeah, close to.
We had just moved here. You were attending the same church now as we have been. Yeah. And I didn't have very many friends, and you very graciously with another friend joined me, and we met up at Whataburger before church and got to know each other. And it's just been such a joy to do life with you. And I feel like God's given you a lot of different avenues to serve the local church in the local church. Yeah. You've also served in orphan care ministry here at our church, and then have been a professional counselor. So you've poured into a lot of people's lives. And, when I think about what we're talking about today, talking about mentorship or discipleship, that relationship really is just a unique form of friendship. Yeah. That it's a friendship, but it has maybe more of a purpose. Yeah. So when you think about that, like how would we even define a discipleship relationship? Should there be such a thing? Is it like this is just a discipleship relationship? What is mentorship? Like when you think about all that, how might we define that for people who even might be listening to this going, that's new to me,
Yeah, I think those are great questions. I think there's a little bit of a nuance with all of them. I think sometimes semantics comes into that, but I would also say that there's a level of intentionality with it too. And so I would probably define discipleship, mentorship. There's probably more of a specific objective in that. It doesn't necessarily have to be super boxed in. So there's not like a 1 + 2 = 3 with that. But I do think that it's mutually coming into a relationship for the sake of a purpose. And the hope would be that purpose is to grow closer to the Lord. There might be specific circumstances surrounding that, certain topics that are wanting to be covered or grown in. But I think overall, if you're going to look at it and someone says, what is mentorship? What is discipleship? It is engaging with another person that you feel like can help you grow closer to the Lord in a specific way.
So how have you maybe seen that play out in your life? Whether that's, man, I know I need to grow in this area, and I'm maybe going to ask somebody for that, which could be really awkward maybe to do that.
It sure can.
Or have you been on the other end of that as well? Like, what does that actually practically, what does that look like for you?
I would say I've been on both ends of that. So I have been in seasons where I feel like, man, I would really love someone who is wiser in a specific area of life to engage with me in a way that can help me grow in that area, that I could really glean from their experience and their wisdom. And I have specifically gone to individuals and said, hey, would you consider and pray walking alongside me for this season that I might grow in this specific way? And I've had people say, no. I've had people say, I don't have time for that. I've had people say, I'd love to, but I don't feel like that would be good. And then I've had others say, I would consider it a privilege. And we've done that. And then I've also been on the other end where I've been asked to, like, hey, I've seen in your life, the Lord is taking you along this journey, and I'd love to grow and learn from you in this. Would you be willing to walk alongside me? And it is extremely humbling. And in the times that the Lord has allowed, it has been such a privilege to be able to do that.
I think that what you just said, like asking somebody to be a part of that, like to walk with you, and them saying no, that I know for most people, that would be a huge deterrent. Like we kind of are just afraid of rejection, I think, today. Yeah. But you have kept asking for those things and keep putting yourself out there. Yeah. And I'm sure that's been worth it. When you think about someone who might be in your shoes and they want to ask somebody, but they've gotten a no, what would you say to them if they're scared to reach out again, to ask somebody?
I would just say, recognize that the Lord in his sovereignty knows who he wants to walk alongside us in certain seasons. And that, while it might feel personal, like it could be a good grace gift from God. And so to remember that at the end of the day, the whole point in asking someone is that you might grow in the Lord. And so the Lord is in the details, no less with the person that he might want to use to do that. And so it's hard. It's really hard. But I would say don't let that deter you if you are in a position you feel the Lord prompting you to reach out, because it's just as much for that person as it is for you and reaching out and asking.
Yeah. I think that's what you just said. That's something we don't often think about with these relationships like mentorship and discipleship. Yeah. Is I think we have this weird idea that it's somebody who's come to, you know, some level of maturity where they like have all the answers and they've had it all figured out. And now I'm going to come back down off the mountain and like give you all the answers that I found, which I think intimidates people from being a mentor, like maybe older women or men who might be watching. Yeah. And that they don't feel like they have all the answers. And so they don't have anything to offer maybe, or, you know, vice versa. Sometimes we can put too much expectation maybe on that person. And you're essentially saying, it can be mutually edifying. And that it's not about who's up here and who's down here, right?
Yeah. If that was the case, I have failed every single person that has ever asked me. I don't have all the answers, and I wouldn't want somebody to think that I did. That's not what it's actually about. It's both seeking the one who does. And so if the journey is about the individuals in it, then it will probably go sour pretty fast. And so, it's not about finding the person who has reached that, you know, peak level of understanding. It's really, is the person humble? Yeah. Are they teachable and willing to teach? Are they willing to acknowledge their humanness? And if you can find someone or you see someone and the Lord leads you to someone like that, that's the person I would say. And then obviously opportunity and seasons of life have to match up. And so logistical, practical things come into play too. And so if it had to do with finding someone that was like the A game of all things, then it would be hard for me to encourage anybody to ask anybody.
Right.
But because it's not that, because we're just asking flawed people to walk alongside us as flawed people, there's a lot more, you know, you can be okay with someone saying no. You can be okay with someone failing you, and recognizing that the Lord's using all of that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I know that it's been really humbling for me to see women in my life who I would consider mentors, and especially when I think like 10 or 15 years ago, being in my early 20s and seeing these women in their 40s and living life. And sometimes they would say things to me like, man, that really encouraged me, or yeah, can you pray for me in this and ask me? And I remember as a young person being like, oh, is that allowed? You know, am I allowed to encourage you in that way? But it helped, I think, shape my even understanding of mentorship and discipleship, and go, oh, you're just as needy and broken and in need of help as I am. And it kind of helped. They didn't know they were doing this, but they were dethroning themselves in my eyes a little bit, like taking themselves off the pedestal and allowing me to be their sister. And I know I see you doing that too in your own relationships. And I think, and that has the benefit of inviting that younger person, and they might not be younger, they might just be younger in a certain area they need to grow in, maybe. Right. But it's inviting them to step up and be a mutual part of this friendship, and also helping them know you're not Christ, that Jesus is the Savior. It's not you. And I think that's such a grace and keeps it healthy.
Well, it's a necessity, because apart from that, it can just go sideways quick. And for my own heart, like I have to remind myself through expressing to others that I am a human and all the faults that come with that, who desperately loves Jesus, but it puts me and my heart in its right place, because it can be easy, you know, when you have people seeking help from you, you have people wanting advice and wisdom, and especially, you know, in the avenues that the Lord has given me to serve, it can be really easy to, you know, feel like, oh, well, look at me, you know, there are others out there that want to glean from me. And so to remember myself, you know, to be able to articulate to others, most of the time is for my own heart to say, Jessica, remember, like you're no less needy of me than the one asking you. And that's a gift, you know, it's a gift to be reminded of that.
So we're talking about discipleship and mentorship, but these are conversations about friendship. And so I know some people might be hearing this like, okay, well, how does this have to do with friendship?
Right.
And I think in some ways that kind of exposes this weird thought we have that like maybe someone who's mentoring us isn't a friend, that's like something totally other than friendship, or someone that we're discipling. is not a friend. What do you think that's exposing in our thought process that we segregate this idea of mentorship and discipleship outside of the realm of friendship?
Yeah, I think to do that almost is to feel safer. If we can delegate friendships apart from those that are speaking into our lives or those that, we want to speak into, it's to say that there's only a certain aspect of our lives that we are to share with them, which in a lot of ways, is a lot safer, but not actually fulfilling the purpose of what I feel like God has intended in our friendships and in mentorship and discipleship. And so I think to do that is to just have a bit of a lack of understanding of our Father's heart, and I think sometimes the best type of mentorship is going to be with those that you do truly consider friends. Now, whether you're friends to begin with or a friendship is built because of that, I think there's both those options, but I think that's the best way to go about it.
And I think when you think about it in terms of friendship, like if someone's listening to this and they have a mentor or they have someone who's poured into them, as soon as you insert that word friendship or you should have a friendship with that person, I think it helps it not be one-sided.
Yeah, it's a mutual thing.
It's mutual. It's back and forth. And if you take out the friendship element, I think what happens is the person maybe who is being discipled that maybe asked for that, they can easily just be taking.
Yes.
And not thinking, how can I serve this person, encourage them, pray for them, or vice versa. Like maybe it causes us to take pride.
Totally.
In like, I have all the answers and I don't need to expose my weaknesses to this person because I'm just discipling them.
Yes.
And that could breed something really unhealthy too.
Totally. Yeah. I think that is a huge thing that we have to be cautious in. I know in my own life, I would hope that anybody I'm walking alongside that has asked me to pour into them for one reason or another would feel the freedom to speak into my life because I'm going to need it. I know I will need it. And so do I always feel the freedom to invite that? No, not if I'm honest, because it feels a lot easier to, kind of be one step away. But at the end of it, if it is a mutually edifying relationship, which I think truly honors the Lord, then we have the freedom to speak into others' lives as they speak into ours, regardless of who pursued the relationship for what reason. And it also protects us from some of the pitfalls that might happen in that type of relationship.
Yeah. I think something too, when we think about this as friendship, it immediately allows us the thought to look at our friends that maybe have just been friends. We've just built those relationships through mutual experiences or life stage seasons. And to go, man, we should be learning from one another. That you don't have to be outside of my season of life, my older than me necessarily, for me to learn from you.
Totally.
And there have been some of my own friends I know that I've looked at and been like, wow, and you're really good at something. This, maybe it's a spiritual discipline. Maybe it's just, man, the way you trust God with people in your life. I'm a people pleaser. And so it's really hard for me to say no. And I've got a friend who's really good at that and trust the Lord with others. And I've come to her before and been like, I need you to teach me.
Yes.
What are you thinking about? How has the Lord shaped this in you? And I think that's a new thought to a lot of people, that they could look around at their own friend group and go, wow, that person's really good at that. I'm going to humble myself enough to go to my friend who's a peer and say, can I learn from you in this?
Yes.
Can you teach me and train me? Have you seen that happen in your own life or have that happen in your own friendships?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there are a number of people that, I look at and I say, I want to be like that person in that way. I mean, it makes me think of our friendship. We went through that season where I specifically came to you and was like, Hel, I'm struggling. I'm really struggling in these areas. And I've seen the Lord really graciously allow you to walk through these waters, and he's grown you in this. And I see a giftedness in you that I just flat out don't have right now. Would you help me to do that? And in doing that, it's honoring God and saying, look what God has done in you. And it's also saying, I want him to do that in me too. And I can't do that on my own, help me.
And the focus being not on the individual people, but like the grace of God in someone else's life.
Because what we're seeing in others that we're saying we want are characteristics of our Lord. It's not saying I want to be more of Kelly.
Right.
I wanted to be more of the Lord, and the Lord is active in your life in that specific way that I saw. And I wanted more of that of the Lord.
That's so great.
Yeah.
And I know I've had the same with you, even in your experience in counseling, because just some of the circumstances I've been in have put me in really tough spots with things that I feel like are beyond my pay grade. It's like, you know, so there have been other times that I've come to you and been like, you have like walked this with people, you know, can you give me some insight of what you've gained? And I think what a beautiful thing that in the body with our brothers and sisters in Christ that we can look around and celebrate. Some of what you're talking about is we're celebrating the grace of God in someone else's life.
Yeah.
And we tend to be competitive, I think, sometimes and want to climb this ladder of spiritual maturity or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm just the only one who feels that.
Oh, no, I'm right there with you.
You know?
Yeah.
Then we see everybody as a competitor.
Yes.
Versus what has he done in your life? I'm going to come to you and humbly ask. But I think something that brings up, and I think you are really great at this, Jess, so I want to highlight it because we have a hard time with seasons, with seasonal stuff in friendship. It you know, all the change that comes with that. So I remember when you were like, I need someone to meet with me and walk through this, which by the way, was like, I felt like a privilege and an honor that I get to be an intercessor for you, and definitely felt, I don't even know what to bring to the table. So like, I'm hoping people are hearing this going, someone asks you that and you're like, I don't know. We'll take it as an opportunity to at least pray.
Yeah.
We can all pray and point to Jesus and go, I don't know, I'll listen to you and pray.
Yeah.
But that was a season that we had in our friendship. And then you were really great about going, okay, and we'll close the season. And we were meeting, I think, weekly or every other week.
Yeah.
So we were meeting consistently. And then there was a season where it's like, okay, and we're going to be done doing that, which I think is really gracious because we can't all keep adding meetings in with people and expect that can keep going on. Yeah. But it wasn't a personal thing in the end. And we're still friends. Yeah. And we're in a different season now of friendship that's sometimes on Marco Polo. Yeah. If you know what that is. Via, you know, phones and sometimes just in the lobby. And I'm sure in the years that we do life together, there will be other seasons. But I think people have a hard time with that. So what enables you to like be able to close the door on a season? And, you know, you have a lot of trust in the Lord probably that undergirds that. But what do you think has enabled you to be able to navigate the ins and outs of that?
Well, first, probably experiencing it and taking it the wrong way to begin with. So taking things personally and really not knowing when to say no. And so learning from those experiences and recognizing that God has us in each other's lives for a season, for a reason. And to cling on to something that the Lord is saying, move on from, is to not acknowledge that he's actually the one in control. And so I just want, you know, I've had to learn that in my friendships to squeeze the most out of them, so to say, is to be present to the extent that he wants me to for that season. And then to walk away, so to say, from that season is to say, I trust you, Lord. And it actually makes it that much more sweeter because then I'm not being stretched so thin because I'm not willing to trust the Lord in those ways that it takes away from it.
That's such a good word.
Yeah.
Man, thanks for sharing that. And thanks too for sharing just your life and stories and wisdom. I think that this is a really great conversation and a needed one because we're commanded to disciple and to make disciples. And I think that's an ongoing process. We never grow out of our need for discipleship. And we never grow out of the need to be pouring into others' lives in some way. And we should be doing that in the context of our communities and in a mutual encouragement of one another in friendship. So I hope that you feel encouraged by this conversation and challenged maybe in some ways to humble yourself and ask for help in discipleship, or even if you're the one pouring into someone else, to ask that person to encourage your heart or to pray for you and to let them see your weaknesses. And that's hard for all of us, but I think really needed. So thanks for joining us for this conversation today.